This is episode 23 with AJ Yager and Meaghan Connell. Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. Power couple. This is a term that's often used to describe those extremely rare couples who have transcended beyond a normal, safe, comfortable relationship to a partnership that brings out the highest potential in each individual. They lift each other up in every area of their lives, from their business to health to connection and to happiness, and they have an energy together that you can just feel and sense the moment that they walk into a room. It is an absolutely amazing relationship to see and to experience, and I'd assume one that we all strive for. So today I wanted to introduce you to two of my best friends here in Austin, AJ Yager and Meaghan Connell, who've created this kind of relationship together. And today they're going to share the strategies that they've used to build one of the strongest and healthiest relationships that I've ever seen. What they have definitely wasn't luck. It's not something they just stumbled into or upon. It was created, and it's something that you can create in your life as well. This interview is absolutely filled with wisdom, and you'll definitely want to make sure that you check out the post for this episode on MikeDillard.com under the podcast or blog heading, where I've listed some absolutely fantastic resources that they've put together specifically for the self-made man community on how to find your power partner and to really create a relationship that takes every area of your life to a brand new level. So with that being said, please welcome AJ Yager and Meaghan Connell. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I have an exciting show for everybody today, and the fact that I get to introduce you to two of my best friends here in Austin, AJ and Meaghan, who are going to be joining us to talk about their relationship. And this is definitely not going to be a counseling session. In fact, it's going to be the opposite, because they have one of the most amazing relationships that I've ever seen, especially when you consider the fact that they are both entrepreneurs. And they are a couple that I can honestly say have a relationship that I would aspire to have one day. And I think everybody else who knows them feels the same way. So I asked them if they'd be willing to jump on the podcast to share their secrets and really their strategies to the relationship that they've built. So Meaghan and AJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. We're glad to be here.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the intro.
Absolutely. And y'all are extremely intimate with Self-Made Man, because AJ and his team have been a part of the implementation and marketing of that since we've gotten started. So you guys know the ropes here. And you know that I love to start out at the beginning of each of these shows with a little bit about your story. And specifically, I think it would be a great place to start with, first and foremost, how you guys met, and to see if there's anything interesting about your relationship when it first began in the beginning, and then we'll dive into the amazing tools and strategies that you guys have implemented over the last year.
Perfect. That sounds fun. And we have a long version and a short version of this. And obviously we're on the home team here, so we know how long that we have on the podcast. So we're going to go with the short version. But cool. There's actually a totally different version that you don't even know, Mike, which we'll have to get into over wine and dinner one night. But sure, we'll jump in. So Meaghan and I met through, and I have to give credit to about several different people. I'm not going to name them, but there's a group of people that were actually involved. And Meaghan's mentors, who I know, who are amazing people, were in town visiting. And I happened to be out to dinner with them, and they decided to say, hey, there's this girl, Meaghan, that works with our company, and we know her. She's a go-getter. She's a badass. She's just business-oriented and goal-oriented. You should meet her. And so I got presented with the idea of this amazing woman. I had no idea who she was. And I was definitely intrigued, but like people will try to set you up, and that doesn't usually turn out too well. So whatever, I put it in my back pocket and said, great, that's fine. Well, then I met the next night with my other friends, and I don't know about you, Mike, but I've had friends who are married, and their wives love to look over me and make sure that I'm dating the right person, or if I'm dating the wrong person, they will definitely let me know. So I had this group of women who were like, my God, you got to meet this girl, Meaghan. We met her the other night. She's incredible. So I had another group of people who I really trust and love talk about her. So again, nothing else happened. I happened to be dating somebody at the time, and I was respecting that. And So I'm going to fast forward a few months actually. And out of the blue, at a completely different opportunity, we were at Swift's Attic here in Austin. And we were, myself and a buddy of mine were meeting up with some friends from LA who were in town for their birthday and had no idea, but we were connected to the same person via a completely different story. So I appear there. I'm sitting like caddy corner. She's in the corner. I can barely reach her. I can barely even see her. This is this long table, but there's something drawing me to her. So it happens to be when I go up to meet her and say, "Hey, I'm AJ," she looks at me kind of funny.
Well, I have to interject because back when he was told about me, I was also told about him. And I was told by a mentor of mine who happens to be a redhead named AJ. And she was talking about this other redheaded AJ and how I had to meet him and how great he was and his entrepreneurial spirit. And so I heard about his essence and his being before I met him. And then he came to Swift's Attic and was introducing himself to the table and said, "Hi, I'm AJ." And he looked familiar because I had stalked him on Facebook a little bit when the ladies told me to meet him. And then I said, "Wait a second, you're redheaded AJ." And he didn't know what to do with that.
I was like, "Yep, I am."
And I was like, well, we're friends with, Rory Vaden and AJ Vaden. And so we made a connection there. And I'm like, oh.
I was like, "Oh, this is the girl I was told about." I totally didn't follow up, or I didn't Facebook stalk her. I didn't do that. So we finally made that connection. Like, okay, this is that person. Well, then she decided to delve into a story. And there was this moment that, as cliche and weird as it sounds, like I was just really drawn to her. I was drawn to her more than anybody else, any other female I've ever been drawn to. She was professional. She was really well spoken. She was confident. She was like mesmerizing the table for about 45 minutes with a story during dinner. Like I was just into her.
Very cool. Very cool. So, clearly you guys benefited from some third-party credibility and some natural chemistry, there as well. Which I think is, definitely not something that you have a lot of control over. But you guys clearly found each other. But how long ago was that now?
It is now 11 months.
Okay, so
still very early.
Coming up almost on a year, still very early.
Yeah.
But you guys have built one of the most unique relationships, positive, supportive relationships that I've ever seen. And let's dive into now really how you made that happen, how you guys set up your relationship dynamic, the rules that you have in place for communication and how you interact with each other and work with each other, because I know we've talked about these casually over dinner before. But if you could, really dive into, okay, we're now officially in a relationship, and these conversations could have taken place 2 or 3 days in or 2 or 3 weeks in, I don't know. But when did you guys sit down and really start to plan out your relationship and your life together?
Those are some great questions. We basically started at the very, very beginning. It all started with our first date, really, because we both knew that we were entrepreneurial and both had big goals and big visions, and we were both very much into self-development. And so our very first date was actually to go see Jay Papasan, one of the authors of The One Thing, speak. So our first date was us sitting on the front row taking copious notes at a conference. And that really set the stage for our relationship and what our goals were. And we recognized that we both had individual passions and careers, but that they overlapped. And so that kind of led with the foundation that we're both wanting to grow. We are both obsessive about getting better and about pursuing our hopes and dreams and visions, and that we're not going to sacrifice that for anyone or anything. We don't make excuses. We don't let things get in the way of our goals. And so we had that conversation actually probably the first night that we had our first date. We didn't even know it was a first date when we started out the night, but by the end of the night, after a 4-hour conversation overlooking the skyline of Austin, we talked about what was important to us, what our dreams and our passions and our interests were. Yeah.
And what really sparked this as well is like, I've been in relationships, multiple relationships, great ones, but it just wasn't, I didn't lead with values. I didn't lead with goals and vision and all that. And this time when I decided to ask her on the first date, which was that day she talked about, I didn't invite her to the bar. I didn't invite her just to go to dinner. I said, you know what? I've heard great stuff about her, but I really want to make sure that we're on the same level, on the same page, at least, like with business and goals and all that. So that's why I asked her to Jay Papasan's, like, it was a book launch. It was like a speaking event and all that. It was professional. So it put us in a setting that was very professional. Yes, it was less like personal, but it actually just kind of naturally flowed that way because I got to see what she was really about, got to see her in action, and got to see her around people that I knew as well. So that was a very different approach than I had ever taken, to be honest.
But what it did is it laid a very good foundation moving forward because we were able to clearly communicate and talk about, well, what are your goals? That was really a starting point for us to launch into, well, what are your visions for the future? And what do you want to get out of life? And all of these really deep questions that you typically don't ask somebody until you're dating them, gosh, a month in, 3 months in, who knows? But we started off day one. And after that, it was a very fast pace because we'd already skipped that level and that depth. And so it was easy to go deeper because we had already aligned our values and talked about those. But really, we gave each other permission to communicate. And that became our first really big rule in our relationship was, as AJ calls it,
the big C.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The big C being communication, something my grandfather drilled home a long time ago. He was one of my biggest mentors, and like communication, we just simply talked about everything. Everything was on the table. There was no BS. There was no, we were also like in the very beginning dating other people,
Mm-hmm.
just like everybody else. So you kind of maybe having conversations with other males or females, and we respected that. But when it came down to it, we both felt the same way. And for all the guys listening, like for me hearing a woman say, "All right, so I want to throw something out there," it's kind of like that talk, like, "Uh-oh, what's going to come out now?" Like, we need to talk quote.
Now, here's the way I prefaced it was, I enjoy having awkward conversations. I have taught myself that the biggest obstacles in life usually come because people haven't been honest with what they're feeling, or they haven't expressed how they're feeling. And it usually takes one giant awkward conversation of people being vulnerable and real to overcome a lot of issues. And we've got tons of examples because about once a week I'm like, hey, let's have an awkward conversation. Let's be vulnerable. But that first awkward conversation.
Yeah, the first awkward conversation was a measure of her emotional IQ, I like to call it, which usually around the emotions and feeling stuff, tricks can get it can just go really weird sometimes. But
we have crazy girl brains, okay? Give us a break.
I like how she puts that. But like, here's the point is she came at me with like, hey, I know you recently got out of a relationship. I really like you. I do like where we're headed. But, and then she said, but I want to make sure you have the freedom to go do what you need to go do as a man first, because I don't want to be stuck in a place where I've got emotions involved, but then you're like, oh, well, I should have dated more and all this down the road, which, Mike, I'm sure you could probably respect greatly. Like, I was like, I respect that you came out and said that. That was just so much easier for me. I never had that happen before, because you usually got to wade through a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so the basically open communication, tackling any subject in a really safe environment, creating that kind of situation to hear the other person out, and really just to talk about, whatever the other person is feeling or whatever's on their mind is, I'd say, piece of the puzzle number one. And then piece number two really becomes, how do you integrate your lives together? When did you guys decide to move in together? And two, what did you do to make sure that was successful? Because you've got different schedules, different habits. It's an interesting dynamic. So how did you guys handle that?
Yeah, many times love is not enough, right? Lifestyle gets in the way, life gets in the way, business, like schedules is one of the largest challenges for couples that we have found. I've been talking to a lot of the couples that we've been interviewing and talking with. So we are both time blockers. We both came from a background of what we're both marketing coaches, and I'm in marketing, she's in sales, but we both had our schedules pretty well built. So when I was asking her for, like earlier on, asking about dates and hanging out and getting together, she was always like, okay, let me check my schedule. I was like, okay, nice. I got to check my schedule too. It's not just maybe Friday, maybe this. It was like on point. So we already had those values together for time blocking. So as we started getting like, okay, we're moving somewhere. She needed to move out of her place by a specific date. I was looking to move away from all the construction downtown here in Austin and just get to a quieter, cleaner place than all the construction dust going on. And we started setting that goal. So we said, okay, well, what does this look like? And how do we want to integrate our lives together that is kind of not like just jump in blindly, but like let's talk about like schedules and where we want to live and how we want to operate our lives and where we want to work out, because health was one of our objectives. So we were actually asked a lot of like high level questions to each other, and honestly, we kind of whiteboarded it. We love to whiteboard it. We just started writing this stuff down and doing it together. That was the key. It wasn't like, well, I need this, and this, and it wasn't a negotiation. It was a collaboration. That's what I'm trying to say.
And that we had to overcome a lot of obstacles too, because both of us also work from home. So making that transition to move in together as a young relationship first and foremost, but then also as two people with established careers who both work from home, there were a lot of things that went into that. And so it was a very serious discussion, but we both are rational, logical adults. And so I made an Excel spreadsheet about it, because spreadsheets are my best friend.
You can tell
My saying is spreadsheets are my pornography. I get really excited about spreadsheets. So when we were making the pros and cons list about, moving in and where we wanted to move to, and the pros of moving further out of the city versus in the city, the rooms that we need, all of that stuff, we talked about it all. And that comes back to communication. We gave each other complete and total permission to be vulnerable and say the things that they need, and to have honest, open communication and say, well, yes, maybe you want this, but I really have this vision in mind. And then going back and forth and saying, okay, what is really important? What are the most important things? And moving in together at such an early stage was everybody else saw it as like a test of the relationship. But because we'd built such a strong, solid foundation, for us, it wasn't a test, because we'd already committed and we already knew what our goals and our vision was, and it aligned perfectly. So it was never hopefully this won't break us, because we'd already discussed all of that. We just happened to get through all those conversations really quickly.
Yeah.
What was one of the most challenging pieces that you guys had when you were figuring all this out?
One of the most challenging, let's see, well, number one, finding the right place that we both like,
Yeah, I think finding the right place was a challenge, but what it did is it gave us insight into how each other's brains operated.
That's true.
So AJ has this great entrepreneurial spirit where he can just see a vision and make it happen without really planning every single detail. And I do not have that skill set. I am a very, very planned, organized, regimented person, and almost to a fault, I suffer from paralysis by analysis. So us moving in together, what it did is it actually gave us good insight into how both of us make decisions. And that was a challenge to see, well, I need 10 spreadsheets to overlay to see, well, where are the safest areas overlaid with what's the property values and what is the average income, and all of these things I researched. And he said, oh, well, I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so it was a good insight into our learning styles and study styles and decision-making styles. But it wasn't really a challenge, I guess. We haven't faced a lot of challenges with that.
No, that was that one.
And what do you guys do when it comes to conflict? How do you handle that? And are there any good stories related to that with some, I would say, valuable lessons learned?
Well, we don't really get into conflicts per se, but we do have, what do you call them? Just conversations?
Well, first of all, we did, like you mentioned it before, like we gave each other permission up front, Mike. Like we said, look, when it comes to like pet peeves or like leaving the toilet seat open, leaving cabinet doors open, like with the little stuff that bugs the crap out of people, on the male side and the female side, we just straight up handled it up front and said, look, I'm giving you permission to give me constructive criticism anytime that you get angry, I do something that bothers you, whatever. So we both looked each other in the eye and gave permission for that. So when conflict does arise, we actually handle it very calmly. The emotions, we don't even get the chance, the emotions to rise. We simply stop what we're doing and we handle them. There can be like sometimes when we were traveling together, directions. She's actually way better at directions than I am, which frustrates me sometimes, but she's become my navigator. Like in the beginning, she's a backseat driver. She would totally always tell me where to go and like what to do about 4 steps ahead. But I kind of had my own way of getting there, or maybe I didn't know and I wasn't man enough to say it at the time, and I was going to depend on Google. So little situations like that, it's a give and take. Sometimes I'm going to choose that conversation to have with her, or just go with it, honestly. But it doesn't bother me. So what are the situations? What's the other?
So me being the woman in the relationship, and we lovingly call it my crazy girl brain sometimes kicks in. And it's not that AJ ever does anything wrong. It's just that as a woman, we tend to see actions and connect them to emotions. And so, for example, when we first moved in together, something so slight as when AJ cooks, and he's a great, phenomenal cook, and he's so awesome when he cooks. But there's one thing, and I know that I'm the crazy one on this, but when he cooks, he'll go and he'll open the spice cabinet, get the spices out, and then he'll just leave the door open. Even though he's done in that cabinet, he'll just leave it open. And then he'll go to the drawer to get something else out, and he'll leave it open. And by the time he's done cooking, it looks like a hurricane came through the kitchen. And because every door is open, every drawer is open. And for me, being super OCD, my left eye just starts twitching. I'm like, what were you raised by? An animal? And so I'll go through and just close all the doors, and it would drive me insane. But being also not only a crazy girl, but a rational adult, I could say, darling, I love you so very much, and you're such a great cook. Softening the blow with petting him.
Tip number 1.
Yeah, tip number 1, soften the blow. And then tip number 2 is take responsibility, radical responsibility for our own emotions and feelings that arise that are completely irrational. Because women have chemicals that override our brain at all times and that we can't control. But we have to recognize that that's what's happening and take radical responsibility for it. So I'll soften the blow by complimenting him. And then I'll say, I know that this is something that lies within me. It's an issue that I have. But when you leave all of the cabinet doors open in the kitchen, I feel anxiety because I associate it with chaos and just with, this feeling of lack of control. And I associate that with control in my life. Like I go super big picture on something so minute, and it's something that automatically happens in my mind without me being able to control it. So I'll sit him down and say, hey, look, these are the things that happen in my brain when this occurs. Now I understand that it's not a big deal to leave the cabinet doors open, but it would really make my internal life a lot easier, and probably yours, if you would just do that. And he'll,
So I love the way she approached that. I was like, okay, well, I kind of do. Like I'm multitasking when I'm cooking. I'm going to come back to that drawer, that kind of thing. In my head, I'm just doing my thing, right? But the way she communicated it to me, again, it's all communication and being transparent. Then what I started developing was a different habit. It's all about these habits. People will come together in a relationship, and they may have completely off-base habits, and that's what can drive them insane. So I said, you know what? Out of respect and love, of course, like I can definitely close the doors. Like it's no problem. It's not a big deal. So that's all I needed to do was have her talk to me, like not yelling at me, not doing anything, crying or anything like that. It was just cool. I'll start a new habit. And so I did. So I'm pretty good about it. I occasionally leave some.
Yeah, but now it doesn't bother me at all because I see the improvement, and I see now every time he closes a cabinet door. It's funny, this is so bizarre, but as a woman, now every time he closes the cabinet door, I associate it with, oh, he loves me that much that he's going to take that stress off of my shoulders so that I don't have to be anxious about that. And so it's weird, but those emotions are still connected, but now I've connected it in a different way. And same thing, like just the other day, last week, I I was PMSing. Let's call an ace an ace. And I had no idea. I burst into tears for the most random reason. And it wasn't even due at all. It wasn't at all justified. And I'm crying and I'm, sobbing to him, and he's comforting me. And I, every time he comforts me with a solution, I bat it away. And
don't do that.
He'd give me another solution and I'd bat it away. And I just wanted to weep in misery. And it wasn't until the next morning that I woke up with a sound, clear mind. It was actually after we'd worked out together. And my endorphins were flowing and I was back to normal and I was back on a normal brain pattern that we were driving home and I said, oh my gosh, I just now realized that I was probably PMSing yesterday. And that's why I was crying about that trivial thing. And he turns to me and just says, yep. And so we talked about, well, how can we address that moving forward? And for me, saying the words PMS would probably be a trigger for me and would make me more upset or make me more angry or more volatile. But for him just to say, hey, darling, do you think that this may be because of that, or that there may be some connection to your time of month? And then I could make the connection myself, So we clearly defined how to go about, like, who has triggers? Take responsibility that it's your trigger. It's your thoughts that are causing this. And then say, all right, what can we do as a team to minimize those triggers or eliminate them?
Yeah, completely agreed. And I know a lot of couples who have gone through the same process and have done the same thing, and it absolutely works wonders. And one of the things that have been most impressive about you guys as well is that you have a really amazing morning routine that you do together that gets your day off to the right start, and it's done really in partnership. And I was hoping that you'd be willing to share that with everybody.
Definitely. And this one was crafted over a first, as we're learning each other's schedules. So we sat down in front of the calendar and we talked about, like, I know that starting mornings is important to me. I like to get up early. I like to get stuff done really early. And so does she. So we're like, okay, we have that part in common. So what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? And what we've learned is that no matter what, when it comes to time blocking or your calendar, you want to make sure that you control the beginning of your day and the end of your day. So we always wanted to start the day with each other and end the day with each other, if that makes sense. Like, that's everything in between. We may be in different states, we may be in different places, but like, at least we can control those things. So first off in the morning, we get up at 5:45. And that is for us to just kind of do the morning routine stuff, get ready to go to the gym. And we want to be at the gym about 6 o'clock, 6:10. So we work out together for about an hour to about an hour and 20 minutes. And together means that we're there together, either doing a actual program together, or she's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing, but we're there. We'll stretch, we'll work out, we'll stretch and like warm up together, but then maybe go our separate ways in the gym. So go from workout to protein shake together. We've got our same proteins, our same BCAAs, like our after routine. And we go home, shower, get ready for the day, and immediately jump into a meditation. Like, we really, really believe meditation in the morning together is very, very powerful, because it's not just yourself getting centered, but it's also us individually and as a whole.
So what does that look like? Because meditation is typically a very quiet exercise. So is that something you do in the same room? What does that look like?
Yeah. So in our bedroom, we have this really cool nook on the side. And it's where it was really nice of her. During my birthday, she bought me, what are they called?
a Zafu and a Zabatan.
Yeah, those things. Very comfy, like meditation
pillows. They're basically seats that are made out of fluffy material so that you can be comfortable. Your knees are comfortable, your butt's comfortable, and it gives you the right posture while you meditate.
And Meaghan, could you spell that for everybody real quick?
Oh, gosh. Zabu is Zabu. Wait. Zafu, Zafu, and a Zabatan, Zabaton.
Cool. Thank you.
Just Google it and it'll autocorrect for you.
Yeah. Cool. So they're actually they're in a small space. They're facing each other. So we started off just facing each other. We're about, I don't know, what's between us? 3 feet?
Mm-hmm.
3 feet.
No, about 5 feet.
About 5 feet between us. we'll do one of two things. We'll do a guided meditation that we love, and we just downloaded it off of or play it off of YouTube.
Yeah, we just play it right off of YouTube. We just did a search in YouTube for guided meditation, and you can search for abundance or happiness or whatever. And we just found one that we really liked.
We kind of set the stage for like what's going on in our lives. And like one of us will come up with, she may say like, you know what, I'd love to work on abundance today. And I'll be like, you know what, that sounds good to me. And we'll just kind of pick the category. But we've gotten into a bit of a rhythm, and we found a guided meditation that we really, really love. It's about 15 minutes, and it's very visual. So we can share that resource with you as well. It's like a really, really nice, easy one, 15 minutes, and we're good. Now, the other thing we do is, Mike, you've kind of experienced this, that we've been playing with the Muse, which is very, very fun. To put on our mind, to put on our brain and measure our brain waves and get ourselves very, very calm for the morning. And it's a test. It like tests our calmness, gives us scores, gives us a little competitive edge to compete against. And then we also use another tool called HeartMath. And these are things that we enjoy doing because of the competition, but also because like we really get a sense for during our meditation where our bodies are like physiologically and then also psychologically.
Yeah, and those really help. I mean, it's really made a huge difference in my life because I was never a meditator. I was never that person who even knew what meditation was until the last 5 years. And I love tracking everything, and I believe in the saying that if it's not tracked, it can't be measured properly and you can't grow. And so I've been meditating for probably 2 years straight, but I never felt like I was doing it properly because I'm so ADD and my mind just doesn't shut up. And so once we got those tools, it was a drastic difference between just a month of training my brain and learning when I was calming my mind, when I wasn't calming my mind, the triggers that would set off my mind and how to eliminate those. You know, I learned different postures made a big impact for me, but mostly importantly, breathing. Yeah. And I remember listening to another podcast of yours, Mike, with Annie Lala. Mm-hmm. And she said whenever she and her husband get into, spouts, she'll go and she'll take 5 centering breaths. And I never knew the power of the breath until we got the HeartMath. And it literally will track your heart rate and guide you in different breath exercises. And you can see the physiological impact that your breath has on your heart immediately. And it's so instantaneous that it's undeniable. And you start to realize our power over our state, both our physiological state, but our mental state and our emotional state. And it can all be controlled by certain things like breathing. Yeah. So when, for example, I'm hyperventilating because I have some big interview, AJ will pull me aside and say, okay, you and I, let's take 3 deep breaths together. And we will go through that together, and it changes our state immediately. And it was really helpful to do that. And now every morning when we meditate, I feel the benefits. I know I'm making an impact and that I am in control of my day from that point forward. And it's made a huge impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't heard of the, is it HeartMath? Is that what you refer to it? Okay, great. Obviously, I have the Muse as well, which has been amazing. And for those of you who are out there listening and you've known about the benefits of meditation, it's been on your to-do list for years as it has been on mine, but you just can't bring yourself around to slow down enough to do it. The Muse system has been great. That's MUSE. And it's actually a headset that you wear that measures your brain waves, and it gamifies it with an app on your phone so that you can actually visually see exactly what's going on with your brain waves. It takes you through guided meditation exercises, and it gives you feedback, and it gives you a score. And so it can really make that process much more interesting, much more educational, and will really make it much easier for you to create that habit, which has been awesome. It's definitely been money well spent. So go check that out. Yeah. So, what I've been hearing over the last, half hour or so with you guys is that there's a common thread between every aspect of your relationship and everything that you do, which is that you're proactive. Every single part about your relationship, about your day, about your communication and your dynamic, every single thing you guys take really accountability for, and you're very proactive about it. You don't leave anything up to a reaction. There's nothing reactionary about any part of your life that you've built together. And I would have to say that if there's a key to the success and what you guys have been able to do and how you've been able to grow together, to me, that seems that's it. It's being proactive around all of these subject matters.
I agree. I'm a huge control freak, and I feel like it's actually been a positive thing in this situation because we have both taken radical control of our own relationship. We have committed to our visions and our goals and our values, and we know that we're in control of it. That our thoughts define our actions become our habits, and our habits define who we are. And it all starts with our thoughts and leading to our actions and our habits. So if there is a bad habit, like AJ mentioned earlier, if there's a habit that bothers the other person, it all comes back to the thoughts that you have. Well, I want to make them happy and I love them, and I'm acting out of a place of kindness and compassion rather than selfishness. So by controlling our thoughts and our actions within our relationship, we're in complete control of the outcome, no matter what comes our way. Now, to the naysayers out there, we haven't had to experience a lot, but it's because of our mindset that we're not subject to a lot of the negativities that a lot of other couples aren't able to overcome. Mm-hmm. We've been able to deflect a lot of it.
Yeah, part of the proactivity in relationships, as we see it, is that people are not their behavior. And if you understand that behavior is at an unconscious level, that there's a lot of stuff in the unconscious that arises in relationships that will really can mess up relationships. But if you take the time to understand it and, like you said, be proactive and handle them up front like we have been, and we will continue doing because it's working. That's really a key to understand that sometimes people's behaviors is not who they are, but it's just behavior. And that comes down to values. That comes down to beliefs as well.
Awesome stuff. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, guys, but what would you say if you were going to sit down with a brand new couple, just started dating, and they're like, wow, we'd really like to set up a relationship and a partnership like the one that you guys have. And if you had to write kind of like a to-do list for them of 3 to 5 things, what would you give them as far as advice goes on how to do that?
That's a great question.
I love it. I'd say my first assignment would be to write down all of the things that you're afraid of, all of the things that you're nervous about talking about, all of the things that kind of scare you a little bit. Write them down and then talk about them. And it doesn't have to be all at once. Actually, you gave us a great deck of cards that has very deep, meaningful questions in it that we've been doing at night to basically bring up these thoughts, emotions, these fears, these hopes, dreams, whatever it may be, but to stimulate these conversations and be proactive about it. So as a new couple, I would recommend writing those things down and then discussing them.
Yeah, you're referring to, I want to give this resource out to everybody because they're like, this amazing deck of cards, but I want to make sure you guys understand it. But it's called The Love Game, and it's a deck of cards. You can go buy these off of Amazon, I believe, or just Google the Love Game. And it was put together by a lot of our mutual friends who are in the relationship arena, like Evan Pagan and his wife, Annie Lala, and a bunch of other amazing people. And it is really a fantastic tool to help you get to know someone at a really deep level, in a much more authentic and much faster way than you normally would. So definitely go check that out. I bought, I think, 5 or 6 packets of them when I made my purchase, just to give out to friends of mine who are starting a new relationship, or if they want to, so that they'll have that as a tool for them. And it's been awesome. They've totally loved it.
Yeah, we have too. This has been very fun. So number one, back to your list is to identify those questions that maybe cause some fear or cause some curiosity, because you need to learn about that person. Secondly, we both did this on our own. Like, this was a really neat thing that we discovered later on, is go write down literally, specifically what you want in that other person. What is it that you want? What are they, from looks to the deeper stuff, to the way they act, to the way they talk? Like, literally create that, because there's a powerful process. Most people these days, most people in the world know what they don't want, but they focus on that, and then they keep getting more about what they don't want. So take the time, go turn off the phone, get away from the web, pull out a journal, go back to the old school, write it down, go to a park or something, and just start journaling this stuff. It may not take a half an hour, it may take a few days or a week, but just go ahead and take that time individually to do that as well. And then on the relationship part, it would be, together writing almost like a mission statement, but like your purpose, like your why as a couple. It's like the book Start With Why is a great book. Well, why is it important for us to be in a relationship? What are your whys, and start defining those.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, so not only your vision, but also your goals. And you can do this in the form of a vision board or a list. I did both. Actually, that's one of the things that brought AJ and I together is, for years and years, I was completely fine with being single and happy and just, having my career and that be my one love. And I was completely fine with being alone until I went on a journey to define what it is I wanted out of a relationship and a man. And once I made that list, I put it out into the universe and I said, I am completely okay being alone for the rest of my life because I'm not going to settle for anything less than these things. And it wasn't a list of 300 things. It was like 6 things. That's it. And but they were high value, very important things to me that defined what a real man would be to me and what my adventure partner looked like. And I clearly defined that in that way, and then also had a vision board. And so when we first got together, I took him through my vision board and showed him my goals and what I wanted. And basically we looked at each other and said, all right, here's my vision. Here's your vision. Do you want to go for the ride? Because this is where it's going. I'm unrelenting in my goals. Are you? All right, then how can we get these goals to align? So I think that's number 2 is kind of coming up with that.
Or 3. I think that's 3.
That's number 3? Okay.
For those who are counting.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Spreadsheet, Meaghan, spreadsheet.
I know. I'm getting panic attack that we don't have it already planned out.
I slapped their hands away from the computer.
All right, so those are 3 absolutely amazing tips, and I think they will absolutely set a couple on the right path or an individual to find that person for them. Anything else that you would like to share once maybe you're in the relationship? Are there any last tips that we could add to that list?
I'd say just making the relationship itself a priority. Because the way I see it is, and the way we define, what we are is that we were both pretty awesome badasses individually. And then when we came together, we became more than the sum of the 2 parts. It was, 1 and 1 is 11 instead of 1 and 1 is 2. And when we did that, when we came together, I lost my train of thought. Dang it.
Well,
this is what happens, Mike, when you don't have everything planned out to the T.
Well, I've got a few for the guys listening too. It's like one of the things that I love to do for Meaghan is I make sure that I open her door. It's a very simple thing.
Work on it.
But I open her door when we go from the gym to the house to wherever I am. Just being a gentleman. Just flat out, like, I value her, so I want her to know that she is special. And you can't just say I love you once a week or, once a month or, that you're special. But like giving compliments to each other. A great book is Love Languages. And a lot of people quote this book and talk about it, but it's important to know day to day when you're spending a lot of time with a person. And we work in the same home, as we mentioned, and we have a work-life separation. We have rules around that, but like giving compliments, doing deeds. She likes service. She likes when I do things for her and give her compliments. So I understand her love languages. And that's a major part of our interaction. Like, we both understand how the other one operates. We understand what's important to them. And then we support that. And we continually do that throughout the day.
Yes. And that's exactly where I was going. Thank you, AJ.
You're welcome.
But no, about working on the relationship is that we're both amazing individuals. And what could happen, and that, is an option, is two amazing people going along this path, and then something happens and they go in different directions because they're not working on the relationship. They're just in the relationship. We've all heard that saying about you have to work on your business, not just in your business. Well, it's the same thing with a relationship, is that we have to constantly make sure that we are a priority, that we schedule in. It doesn't matter how many things are going on in the week. We schedule date night. And that is unrelenting, and it's never going to be sacrificed. We track everything, from the time that we spend together to how many times a week that we have sex. Those are important things. That may be nerdy that we track how often we have sex, but it's important to know that we're working on the relationship and that we're not letting life and business and all of these other extraneous things in our lives get in the way of what's truly important, because at the end of the day, love overrides all. And it will, if we work on our relationship and our communication and everything together, it will translate into the rest of our lives. If we have relationship success, it will yield financial success, mental success, spiritual success, and vice versa. So we're constantly working on the relationship as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the interesting pieces of this puzzle for you guys specifically is that you're very compatible on the way that you work from a structure standpoint. Meaghan, you're uber structured. AJ is probably a point or two below you, but still enjoys that as well. And I think that's really critical for y'all's success, because if one person, was not, or both people were not that way, and one was really enjoyed unstructured and a lot of freedom and flexibility, it might be a very different result. And so I think that's really important when you're looking for a partner, is the fact that your operating system is fairly close. They don't have to be exactly the same, but they definitely have to be compatible.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the word compatible comes up there for sure. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to share, Mike, was I had just gone back to some of my favorite quotes for men and for women for relationships. But one of them, in the classic Think and Grow Rich. And so I wanted to share this one. And this is something that Meaghan and I, we'll find quotes and we'll find, cool sayings, and we'd like to discuss them and talk about them. So this is something we brought up, if you don't mind me sharing.
I'd love to. Yeah, please.
Okay. So love, romance, and sex are all emotions capable of driving men to heights of super achievement. Love is the emotion which serves as a safety valve and ensures balance, poise, and constructive effort. When combined, these three emotions may lift one to an altitude of genius. And the uselessness of wealth without women, man's greatest motivating force is his desire to please a woman. And finally, the men who have accumulated great fortunes and achieved outstanding recognition in literature, art, industry, architecture, and the professions were motivated by the influence of a woman. Those were written a long time ago, and I thought that was pretty beautiful, to share with men and women around relationships. And I think it's just fantastic to see how when you come together with the right partner and you are compatible and you share values and you share goals and you create a distinct vision that you're both passionate about fulfilling, it can just become even more amazing than when I thought it was great to be single. And now I've discovered something even more powerful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I can honestly say that you guys, I've watched you do that over the last year, which is why it's been so inspiring. And I wanted to have you on here to share, the secrets to your success as far as that goes. So I think that's actually a perfect segue to end the show, because I don't think it could get more potent or poignant than that. So thank you guys so much for being willing to come on and to open up your private lives to the public, frankly. Which a lot of people are not willing to do, and for being just examples of amazing people, amazing entrepreneurs, but most importantly, an amazing couple who has an amazing partnership that is obviously pushing you guys to become the best versions of yourself that you can be, which I think is the highest, level of attainment for a relationship that you could possibly, get. So thank you so much for coming on, and any last words or thoughts for Self-Made Man, the Self-Made Man audience before we say goodbye?
I don't think so. We've had a lot of fun. This was actually really, really great to open up and to share. And I hope the men and even women listening get something out of this, because we really, really want to help other people, learn from us and learn with us, because we're not experts. We're not saying that we're still on this journey learning, but we want to continually study those and model those who are fantastic. So we studied power couples. We literally have been just going into this world of like, what is a power couple? What is it like to kind of live this lifestyle? And I think it's worth studying and talking about. So thank you again for having us.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun doing research into this because we are very methodical creatures. So, in our relationship, we've done a lot of research. Well, I have, and shared it with AJ. He's stimulated the research, and just to find this information and to digest it, interpret it, experiment with it, and see what works and doesn't work, and then share it. This is our passion. Is we love teaching and inspiring others. That's what we do.
And Mike, thank you for starting Self-Made Man. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of men, and like I say women too, because Meaghan likes listening to it. I'm sure there's other women out there listening to it, but thank you for the messages you're spreading. This stuff's important. And I think as men being very entrepreneurial and want to build businesses and build empires, having the right woman, the perfect fit next to you is just makes it that much better. So it's all around. It's a great effort.
Absolutely, guys. Well, thank you once again so much for joining us, and looking forward to future updates. Down the road, maybe we can do this as an annual checkup to see where you guys are at
Ooh,
and how
I like
things
that.
are going.
That would be fun.
And we'll go from there. Well, thank you guys so much, and I hope you all enjoyed the show out there. Make sure you check out the blog to have access to all of the resources that have been mentioned here today, Muse and the Heart Program and all of the other good stuff that was talked about. And we will see you guys next week. Take care.